So they paired me up with two kids that weren't them, and they were so highly offended. And we get in the car to go home, and I see them in the back of the van just like, and they're like, "Excuse me, hello? We would like to be actors."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh no, here we go."
Hi, and welcome to the Storia podcast where storytellers disrupt. I am Fabiano Altamura.
And David Noronha. This is another character for his name intro. Yeah. And what should we do before we dive in, sir?
We should like, download, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. Today, we are in part 2 with the amazing Kelly Lentz.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are indeed. And if you missed part 1, I want you to rewind, hop over in wherever you consume your podcasts to hear part 1, because we have Kelly Collins Lentz, whose mini IMDb bio says that she was born in the U.S. of America. She's an actress, writer, producer, known for things like Miracles from Heaven, Gifted, and One Tree Hill, although there's probably dozens and dozens of more credit. But today, we're going to hop in with you, Kelly. So welcome back. Welcome back for part 2.
Thank you.
We're going to, in part 1, we got to explore your journey as a believer, those moments of discovery, 4 years old, getting that first blush of audience attention, that sort of adrenaline to the brain that just rewires all creatives and sets us on that path, where you studied, and your professional life and the voice of God in your journey. But today, we want to gear shift with you, and I'm sure we're going to get to hear about more of your professional accolades, but you have a really beautiful layered life as a creative in that you're not just one yourself, but you've raised creatives, which I know is going to be a deep topic for our audience. So
Yeah.
Let's dive into you as a mom. So how many kids do you have, and which was the first one bitten by the proverbial bug?
Well, I have 4 children. They're not children anymore. My youngest is 18.
Wow.
And so they're all grown. And in the beginning, I really was going to keep them out of this industry because for 2 reasons. 1, I had worked with too many bratty child actors myself. And 2, I had worked with too many insane stage parents.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that. And so I was like, this is going to be my thing, and we'll see what they want to do. And so, and it worked out because my oldest daughter really wanted nothing to do with the industry. She was more of an athlete. And so fantastic. We followed along that path. But I homeschooled my kids, not because they were in the industry, just because I believed in it. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that led to me having to drag a couple of kids along with me to auditions in the Atlanta area. And so one day my middle 2 were with me. I don't know where number 1 and 4 were, but it was just the middle 2, Matt and Madison. And we go into this commercial casting office with, ironically, Melissa McBride, she was the casting director. She would go on to be Carol on The Walking Dead.
Wow.
But before she was Carol on The Walking Dead, she was a commercial casting director in Atlanta. And there was a lot of kids there. And they were like, the door would open into the casting room and you'd see like these kids blowing bubbles and going down this pretend slide. And so my kids were like, hey, do we get to go in and do that?
I could
and
see
I'm
like these 2 little meerkats, peeking up. Like, do we get to go?
What's going on in there? And I'm like, no, honey, this is just for the actors that are auditioning to play mommy's kids. And they were like, well, we are your kids. Like, why can't we go in there?
By the way, this is the exact conversation you want to be having as an actress as you're preparing to go in a room, right? As if you don't have enough going on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Oh my goodness. And they were like, well, can't we just go in? And I'm like, no, it takes a lot of training to blow bubbles and go down slides, believably. So probably not. And so they paired me up with 2 kids that weren't them. And they were so highly offended. Yeah. And we get in the car to go home, and I see them in the back of the van just like, and they're like, excuse me, hello? We would like to be actors.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh no, here we go. And I could have this is a story that goes down in infamy. I could have just called my agent. Like the child division of my agency was in a different building. So I didn't know those agents, but I had connections, right? I decided
It was just
in
another
a moment of
extension in the building.
insanity to take them to an open call to make sure that they had the goods. So I wasn't dragging them around Atlanta for, no good reason. And we pull up to the open call, and literally it was like American Idol on day one. And I was like, oh no. I'm like, actually, kids, I think mommy can hook you up a different way. And they were like, no, we've rehearsed the milk commercial. Like, we're ready to go. And so I was terrified that they were going to get cut and I would annihilate their little hearts on day one. But luckily they were both picked up and the rest is history.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Man.
Then
yeah,
those two would go on to start working. And then it was my oldest saw how much money they were making as little child commercial actors while she's hoofing at babysitting. And she's like, what are we doing? All right.
So they all went into the industry then?
They all did.
All four of
them? The
them?
youngest one just thought, all four, because the youngest came along and just thought that's what you do. You make your bed, you brush your teeth, you tape an audition.
Wow. And are they still all in the industry now? All four of them?
So they all grew up in the industry. They all ended up with series regular roles at one point or another. And my oldest was the first to exit. She was on a show for about 3 years. It's shot in Wilmington, North Carolina. And when she was done, she also was a student at Auburn because that was a dream of hers too. But she had to leave school to go film. And when that show was canceled, she just kind of panicked a little bit and said, I guess I better go to LA and get my next thing. And when she moved there for a year. And she quickly realized, this is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. So she moved home. She got her degree. She went to law school and she just became a licensed attorney.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Well, they say all lawyers are actors anyway.
I was going to say,
all actors play lawyers.
That's I made a career out of that. I mean, I love that the fallback plan was to become a lawyer.
Well, that's funny. Mine was the reverse because I went to university and started doing business and law, then became an actor.
And you said, please, Daddy,
exactly.
No. I don't want to be a lawyer, Daddy. Wow. So you have 4 kids in the industry, and I'm sure you have a million stories to tell. But before we get to the stories of success, because you have beyond a fair modicum of success in your family, do you have any funny, like worst audition as kids moments or days on the job? Any funny moments? I mean, like, for me, it was vomiting on the set, an entire tuna sandwich because I smoked too many cigarettes on NYPD Blue. That's my worst nightmare. And then having Botchko show up on the set and say, "How are you feeling today?" I was so frightened of the man. Do you have any horror stories?
Oh, of course, plenty. When you're driving downtown Atlanta every day for commercial auditions with 4 kids in a minivan.
Oh my gosh.
There's some funny moments.
That's a show.
The one
right
that popped in my mind. That's a show right there. The one that pops into mind though is when Maxon, my youngest, was 4 years old. He landed his first film role as Owen Wilson's son in Hall Pass.
Huh.
And in the audition, there was a bad word he had to say. Because there was a bad word he had to say. And I decided I didn't want him to say the word, but because he looked literally just like Owen Wilson, I'm like, I'll take you anyway. And if they need you to say the bad word, then we just won't do the job.
Wow. They
cast him and they said, oh, he doesn't have to say that. He can say but instead of.
Yeah.
And
donkey.
Should have known. Got on set and he said the word, he said not the word. They filmed that a few times. And then eventually I was literally cornered by Owen and the Farrelly brothers.
Oh, wow.
Just saying, it'd be so much funnier if he actually said.
Yeah.
And this is a life lesson about, that I teach people all the time. Like, don't set your boundaries way far back because once you get on set, you will cave. You just will. So all of a sudden, I'm bribing my 4-year-old son, who I've said, we don't say words like that. I'm bribing him to say the word.
Oh, wow.
And actually, they were right. It was funnier with the word. It was.
Sure it is.
But yeah, so yeah.
But no pun intended.
Wow.
Right.
No, I was like, so how This is from a financial point of view. How did you teach your kids then with the money that they earned to invest it? What did you do? How did you teach them to steward that? Because
I knew as an actor myself what the realistic picture was. And I had also coached a lot of child actors that would go on to be successful, but then that one show they got was over and they were too good to get a day job.
Right.
And so the money just frittered away and now they're back living in their mom's basement.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that. So even now, my daughter, Madison, she's been a series regular on a show for Amazon for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
She still lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in Burbank. She really lives pretty poor. And instead, we have taken the majority of her money and invested it into different rental properties and things like that. So that if this show is it, because it might be it. Now, I believe in her. I don't think it's going to be it, but it could be
it's not your belief. Yeah, it's the business. By the way, I've watched her daughter grow up. I watch, I'm going to say the title, Bosch.
Sure,
Bosch, and now she has her own flipping spinoff. I mean, this is no joke. But it was so crazy meeting you because my family and I watched Bosch. So I knew Maddie. And I mean, isn't her character named Maddie as well?
It is.
Which was so trippy because every time you would talk about her, I was like, okay, she's talking about the character. She's talking about her daughter. It was but how old was she when she booked Bosch?
She was 15.
But she looked so much younger. Did they play her younger?
Maybe.
A little bit. Maybe. I felt like they played her.
I was a little worried. Yeah, she was really tall though. And I was really worried when we showed up that they were going to fire her because she was taller than the mother that was cast.
Yeah, well, she didn't stick around. Like, She didn't stick around nearly as long as Maddie did. She got the better. She got the better gig.
I think that's really wise what you did with regards to congratulations financially, because I know that when I one of my only, but my first big film that I had, I took the money from that and started investing in real estate straight away. And I think that's such a smart. Did you get her to invest in LA or in Atlanta outside of?
No, she's got a beach house. And she's got a game day condo here in Auburn, which is where I am now.
Game day condo. That is a serious football town.
What's a
game
football
day town?
For game.
So when people come to town to watch Auburn football play and they don't want to stay in a hotel,
let's just say Auburn is fanatical. As fanatical as Italy and the Vatican are about the Pope.
Is Auburn like a professional football team? Or is it college?
It's college town.
College town.
You'll have to forgive him, Kelly. He is.
Sorry, when you say football to me, I see a round ball.
I should have known.
That you use with your
It's a language
feet.
Barrier.
And here you use it with your hands and it's an oblong ball. So it's
sometimes with our feet, every now and again.
Sometimes.
So financially, see, this is something that a lot of people don't realize that I want to highlight that Kelly has hit in both episodes, which is one of the biggest mistakes that actors make is they think they're always going to be making the movie or the series regular money. This is the problem because, and I mean, listen, depending on where you start, I mean, you could be talking about if you're a young kid actor, 20, 30 grand an episode. Of course, if you're the lead and you've got credits, it can be higher than that. But I mean, you can soon stumble out of, I remember when I first graduated Carnegie and they back in the day, they used to make you sign the 6 or 7 year deal out in the lobby with the other 2 guys that look exactly like you. This is how they kind of, leverage you. Everything's been pre-negotiated. You sign the contract. Then you go into the room for the last audition. And the contract that you are signing shows more zeros per week than my mom or dad were making in a year. I call it Monopoly money. And then the pilot may or may not get picked up. Back in the day, now they bifurcate, which is a fancy word for paying you half of your pilot fee. Now I understand there's no pilot fees, period. There's no such things as quotes anymore. All of that whole system has kind of been discarded to a great degree. But then you might also be signing up for 6 or 7 years. And this is the trick. You see 6 or 7 years and you're like, oh, I am going to be rich, except if you only get the 6 episode pickup or the 10 episodes, or you get canceled before that, before you pay Uncle Sam, your agent, your manager, and your lawyer, you're left already with less than half. And if you've been running debts leading up to the gig, it's like gone in a couple years. I mean, the best thing
well,
I did
it's so gone. Yeah. Especially, yeah, a lot of people think that my kids have a ton of money, but once you pay the manager, once you pay the lawyer, once you pay the agent, once you pay the taxes, once you put 15% into Coogan, the Coogan account.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's like there's not a lot left. Now, you know, all of my kids that went to college were able to pay for their own college with the money that they made, and so that was good.
Good on them.
But again, like Matt probably out of my kids has worked the most, has had the most number of jobs. And like we said, he's, you know, starred on a Marvel series. And about 6 months ago, we were like, Matt, your account is you're good. You're going to be good for a minute, but we're on strike.
Yep.
It was COVID. Like, you might want to consider just grabbing a little job. And so he did. And then, of course, he got an offer for a film in Utah that was shot under the interim agreement. So he left that job. And now that he's back, we're like, hey, what about that job? And he's like, no, I'm good for a while now.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I really worry because he always has tended to work. But when is that going to end? It's scary. It's really, really scary. And it's one of the main things that I'm like, did I do the right thing?
I think you did, Kelly. I mean, I can't imagine under the circumstances of balancing your career, I'm sure your husband's career, and raising 4 kids that have navigated to, if your eldest daughter is any indicator of the fruit on the tree, then we just have to say, well done. Listen, if there's a family out there, and maybe now let's just lean into your mom. You're a believer. You had your own personal journey of wanting to protect your walk with the Lord, your own concerns and doubts and struggles in that department. If there was a parent out there, a Christian parent, who had a kid that was showing some indicators of wanting to go into the arts, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think there's a lot of advice I would give them, but the main one I would hit on, I hear a lot of parents, and I would hear a lot of parents when I would consult or coach, that would be like, well, my child doesn't need a B plan because their A plan is just going to work. Like, I have that much belief in them that they don't need a B plan. To me, that is absolute foolishness. You need a parallel A plan. Something that they can do. And you don't need to call it a B plan because, like, well, if I have a B plan, then I won't work so hard for my A plan. No, make it a parallel A plan and still make it flexible so that you can still pursue this industry. I had a mom just reach out to me the other day about this. And I said, make sure it's flexible so that he can still pursue this. And then if his career takes off, fantastic. But unfortunately, the chances is that he will be one of the 94% of people that do not make a full-time living at this. Only 14% of all actors in the Screen Actors Guild earn health benefits. That's just reality. And there's a lot of talented people that aren't in that 14%. So I would say have them pursue, it's not even like they have to go to college. It's just make sure they have something they can do to earn money while they're also pursuing their art.
And I think what a lot of actors, that's great advice. I think what a lot of actors do is they think they've got to be a waitress or something because the tips are good or whatever. But there's so many other parts to the industry. Like, if you love the entertainment industry, I mean, be a PA, work in casting. Like, if you work as a casting associate, as an assistant, there's so much opportunity. And I think rather than feeling like I'm not making it as my first goal, which is to be an actor, there are so many other ways to enter the industry. And I think you've got to look at it as like a portfolio lifestyle, right?
You are a business and you need to be diversified.
And you have to be diversified. It's like, it's the same with us in business, right? We have a good property portfolio, but we don't just stay in residential. We have a mix of commercial. So it's kind of like in any business portfolio, you have to diversify somewhat, right? It doesn't mean to be shotgun and not focused, but if you want to be in the entertainment industry, then you can be a PA while you're still self-taping, right?
Listen, I actually think you're a better actor when you do this because, I mean, I think I've had my worst moments as an actor when I'm in desperation. I joke that desperation is just like, it's a foregone conclusion that you're probably going to be rejected because there's just something repellent about it. But if you're able to go in with a sense of peace, peace of mind financially. I think you actually do better work when you're not suffocating. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your journey professionally and relationally too with your family. If you were to leave creatives with one final piece of sage advice as mother, professional, businesswoman in general, not just parents with kids, what maybe one thought or piece of advice might you give to someone who's yearning to be an artist out there and follow Jesus at the same time?
Whenever you have to make a choice, never discount the still small voice.
Boom.
And on that mic drop moment, ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Collins-Lintz, blessings to you and your family and all of your creative endeavors. Can't wait to see you again, Kelly. Thanks for hanging out on the Storia
Thank you, Kelly.
podcast.
It's been an honor.
Thanks, guys, for having me. And thank you for what you've done for me.
Thank you. And we hope to see you again on the Storia podcast.